Many years ago, I was invited to work on changeover reduction at our Netherlands ceiling tile plant. I was assigned a team of operators, mechanics, and a supervisor, and we were given 2 weeks to do everything we could to reduce the time it took to change the entire fabrication line over by 50% or more. Now, I had been to the plant a few months prior and realized there were lots of opportunities to reduce that changeover time. I had to get to know the team well, but what I found out was their native language was Dutch, and I don't speak Dutch. So I was assigned an interpreter. Now, I aligned with the operations manager, and he essentially gave us free rein over the line with one specific requirement. If we're going to shut down the line to try something, we had to do it safely, but also give him a heads up before we did that so that he could assign the crew to do other work. Additionally, I was met by the maintenance manager named Ulrich. Now, Ulrich was about 6'8", and he was about 2 times the size of me. And when I first met him, he took my hand in his and squeezed it so hard that I almost went down to my knees. And he said, "You will follow the proper procedures when you do changes to the line." Well, of course, what could I do but assure him that I would? So from time to time during those 2 weeks, we found areas of opportunity on the line that we could improve that would reduce changeover time. And the team was getting into it. But other times we wouldn't fill out the proper paperwork in advance. And we would get visits from Ulrich. I knew to keep my hand behind my back. Also, the operations manager would show up from time to time as well, every time we shut down the line, reminding us that we were supposed to tell him that the line was to be shut down. So we said we would. Things were going fast and we wanted to do the right thing. Now, as we worked our way through the line, we found the equalizer, which is like a large table saw that cut the large boards of ceiling tile into smaller pieces and parts. And we were generating a lot of issues and scrap, and we found out that adjustments for size were very difficult for the team. So shutting down the line and guessing when the operations manager would show up, we found out using dial indicators that every time someone made an adjustment, the dial indicator would be different than the numbers would say the movement of the saws would be. Now we had to figure out why that was. There was a precision screw and there was a bearing, a brass bushing that rode on the precision screw. Well, the brass bushing was designed to wear down because the precision screw had to be accurate for the life of the equipment. So after further analysis and finding out that when we turned the dial for 0.010 of an inch and the dial indicator didn't even move, we realized something had worn. So I asked the team members that when was the last time that the brass bushing had been changed. And none of them knew that it ever had been. So we invited Ulrich to come back out and we asked him. Well, it had never been done. So we took the unit apart and found out that this brass bushing that was supposed to fit correctly and precisely in the precision screw had worn down essentially to a nub. Well, at that point, that told us what we needed to do, which was replace the brass bushings, but also that we needed to create a recommended replacement schedule for the bushings. And now Ulrich knew what we were doing was the right thing, and he was very supportive from then on. The operations manager as well was very pleased. Once we were able to replace those brass bushings, we found that any adjustment was accurate to 1/1000th of an inch. Therefore, when we changed over for sizes, we could get to that proper size immediately rather than through much trial and error. Through the rest of those 2 weeks, we made many other breakthroughs, and we would play a game every so often of when we shut down the line, how long will it take for the operations manager to show up? Team had a lot of fun with that. We tried to be respectful, but we also did have some fun. At the very end of those 2 weeks, we did have a report out, and we brought out plant leadership to show what we had done very proudly. Now, the report out was done mostly in Dutch, so I don't actually know what they said exactly, except for the very end where then they said to everybody, "Here's what we learned from Adam, that it is better to beg forgiveness than to ask permission." I hope this story provided you with some inspiration to revisit your own processes. I have a lot more I'd like to share. Head over to pi-partners.com to learn how I can help. And check back from time to time for more Kaizen stories.